Okay, got it.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. All right, now where am I going?
I know, right?
Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me a beautiful soul sister who I've connected with energetically, but I haven't really had the opportunity to talk to before. Her name is Dr. Sharnael, and she is an author, naturopathic doctor, conference speaker, researcher, and specializes in igniting all to truth, which I love, and wholeness path, mind, body, and spirit. Her passion in teaching and truth facilitates support to the masses, thank you, on an international scale through her online classes, her membership, Swiftfire University, her social media, and her podcast, Dr. Sharnael True TV. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the work you do in the world. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I've been following your work for a little bit too on Instagram. So if you guys aren't following her, she's got some really good stuff out there. And yeah, that's how we kind of connected. And we're always happy to meet like-minded people.
Mhm. So I wanted to start out by asking you, like, tell me a little bit about your journey. I mean, I've read your book, but like, I'm just curious, like, what started you on this path of where you are now? I
Well,
know, question.
yeah, I know. Okay. I was born. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so basically, I did not come up in any kind of religious background at all. Um, but my mom, was, I guess, spiritual. I would say my mom is spiritual. There wasn't a whole lot of introduction to God or anything, though, to be honest. My dad was military, and I was involved in some stuff with that in an early age that I think was a bit more of a unknowingly a way that jumped me into some things on another path spiritually. It
Okay.
wasn't until my dad moved to Louisiana. Like, we always lived up north. I'm from Montana originally, and we lived in like New York, and we lived in Michigan, Washington State for a while. My dad's from Michigan, and we lived in Europe. And
Okay.
so when we moved to the South, that was probably one of the biggest shifts and shocks for me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
really, yeah, it was because you're from Oregon, right? Like you,
I'm originally from Connecticut, and when I moved out here, whew,
oh,
that's
really? I guess that
yeah.
would be a shock from east to west also.
New England to Oregon.
Yeah,
Washington, Oregon, a big cultural shock, but
yeah, east to west
love
is
it.
probably just as insane as north to south or south
Yeah.
to north. Probably south to north would be rough too for
Yeah.
anybody. I mean, it's funny because I just came back from Europe, and my co-host on our podcast is from England, and we didn't get to see each other. But when he came to the States, he was like, "Hey, can you just hop over here?" And it was like, I'm like, I'm 25 hours away from you. And he was like, wow, the United States is so big. And,
Right.
even just being in England and a couple places, you can, hear the dialects are different and the culture is so different. So let alone, east, west, north, south.
Yeah.
All that being said, it was a shock. And what was interesting is, I have always moved like every year or two because of the military. And when we moved to the South, I had been I was 13, 14 years old. So I kind of had like, I had figured out how to meet people, like I'd been accustomed to knowing how to meet people, having a bigger scope of different kinds of people. And so, but down here at the time, and I don't know if it's like that now, but then they had like blue law on Sunday where like all the stores were closed on Sunday. You couldn't like, it was very like religious. And there still is a bit of that. It's
Okay.
not as bad, but pretty much if you didn't go to church, you didn't have a friend. And so I
Oh,
found
interesting.
myself being invited to a lot of churches, and I did land on going to one. And then there was an introduction there about God, which I had had experiences with seeing things in the spirit realm as far as Jesus and some other things that had given me that like spiritual desire to connect. And I had talked to my parents about that, and they were just kind of like, what do we do with this girl? But now I had some inroad at least to kind of have a little bit more of a journey on, even though it wasn't where I landed, it definitely started a different path. So I, went to church, did the whole religious thing. I mean, it was, I'm all or nothing. I'm not a gray person. And it didn't take long, before I was in Bible school, I was leading church stuff. I was,
Oh, wow.
went to seminary. I did all of it. And then really felt after a few dreams to actually leave seminary mid-semester, which it was a big deal for me to even be in seminary. It's a long thing, but and that caused a lot of slack. It's a lot. It's you got to be courageous to live your truth,
Ah,
no matter who you are watching this. Sometimes it can be a little bit unsettling to try to find your path, and people
yeah.
not understanding, like, well, what is she doing now? And like, why would she get to seminary after this fight and then leave, with straight A's and doing great? And I didn't understand it myself, but I was just, again, it's always so important to follow that voice, within the God in you.
Yeah.
And so that led a whole new different path, and meeting a lot of new people and really diving into things like what I now know is meditation. We called it soaking then. I now know that the Mormons call soaking something completely different, and so I don't like to use that term. But yeah, meditations and just, really, really fine tuning that connection with God, and like really knowing what voice was what, because everybody's bombarded with different voices. And I don't mean like we're schizophrenic, but I mean
Right.
there's a lot of different outside voices and inside voices of like, what do you do? And sometimes that can lead to confusion, and a lot of that can be parasites, to be honest, whether it's electronic and or physical. um
Yeah.
but in that time too, I was doing conferences. I was working about 120 hours a week. I was on
Oh.
6 planes a week for 17 years,
Mhm.
teaching on conferences as big as two people all the way to 40,000 people.
Wow.
And that was a big learning curve, to be on a platform that level. We did television for 3 years in North America, as well as Europe. And
Okay.
um, so there was a lot of things to be learned in those atmospheres. Started writing books, and but that took a little bit of a turn as well when I kind of like shifted. And when you shift, your audience shifts. And I also found myself really sick at the time, and I think that was a catalyst. Being in a lot of stress and eating really poorly and being on the planes all the time and not having a lot of access to decent food, and really not even having, I guess, the common sense to eat better, and just grabbing things on the run. I had been sick about 6 years, and I'd been to multiple doctors trying to find answers, but I just kind of got on that like circus
Mm.
mountain thing, going around the mountain over and over again. And it's pretty depressing, to be honest. Then
Yeah.
and now, I think it's actually worse now. Um,
Yeah.
but in that process, met some really amazing people, or attracted some really amazing people who were into things like neuroscience and quantum physics, and some really great teachers. Bob Jones was a dear mentor for me for years, and he kind of had some dreams about things having to do with medicine in a cabinet and these little bottles, and that being an answer. And you know um met a man named Dr. Lucky, and met a man named Gary Young, and met another doctor. All of these are doctors. Dr. Gary Young, and then what was the other guy? Dr. Stewart, Dr. David Stewart. And was very, very fortunate that I was able to reverse what was going on with my health. And I was able to do it pretty quickly in 16 weeks with,
Oh, wow.
yeah, with just aromatherapy.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and I was like, I thought aromatherapy, I didn't even know there was I mean, I knew there was oils, but
Right.
I had been given oils like all the time. I didn't know the difference between like, you know, Target oils, TJ
Right.
Maxx oils versus the
Right.
actual aromatherapy frequency, all oil in a bottle kind of, I didn't know the FDA guidelines that were so
Right.
terrible on them. And so I just made a few changes, did not even change my diet, but was able to get off 33 meds. I
Wow.
dropped 80 pounds,
Wow.
just with a little set of oils. And then I was kind of like, well, if I can feel better, get off on my meds, and there's frequency to this,
Mm-hmm.
and I had studied frequency, taught on miracles, taught on dreams and visions, taught on like connecting with God and all, this was just my whole bag. And I was like, wow. Then I started getting um different dreams about going back to school at 37 to get my naturopathic doctorate, which, I didn't know that existed growing up
Right.
military. Everything's super Western. You just do whatever they say, you get the shots, you do the things, and um I shouldn't have said that word, sorry. But such a hot word. But yeah, so I went back to school, and by then I was actually a single mom with three kids
Oh,
under
wow.
8, 7.
Ooh.
Yeah, still working full time,
Ooh.
completely on my own. Was selling my blood, literally selling my plasma for diapers and stuff. Like it was pretty
Wow.
rough time.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot, and I got my doctorate, and was just, someone had invited me to speak. The churches were still inviting me at different times, and I was teaching on this, and really getting the prayer lines gone. And
Mm-hmm.
then I actually had an invite to a wellness convention, and that was my first, outside of church kind of whatever, spiritual, outside of spiritual thing. It was more of a medical convention, and I spoke there, and I was so scared because I was like, oh gosh, I was brand new medical and didn't really know what to say, or, if I would be accepted. And, my whole background was just God, but
Right.
God is science, and for
Right.
me, there's no separation. I mean, God is the biggest scientist in the universe. He created every she, whatever it,
Yeah.
so that was really fun, and it was very successful, and was doing all that, and
Awesome.
helping a lot of people reverse a lot of things.
Mm.
And doing those things caused a lot of people to, contact me. But because I traveled doing this, they would contact me where I am to get help. And of course, I'm not in that state or country. And so there was a lot of remote consultations for years. I have about 15,000 patients now,
Oh,
outside of my city, not counting my
wow.
city. And um, and that was way before remote consultations were cool. Now it's
Yeah.
back then it was like, what do you mean you can do a consultation, long distance or whatever? But I do have remote technology that allows me to even do biofeedback long distance, which is
I
very,
love that.
very accurate and very, very helpful. um,
Mhm.
and then the whole other thing happened in the last 3 years, which I'm not going to say that word, that so I started working with some doctors that have been on like Joe Rogan's show before he was on Joe Rogan's show. And
Okay.
before they were on Joe Rogan's show, I was working with the government to help pass some laws here to not force people to have to do some things that they weren't wanting to keep their jobs.
Hmm.
And they took my whole channel down, wiped away my channel, my podcast, all my years of work. Was really targeted. My website was it was pretty terrible, but ended up starting all over again, and kept my practice up. And now we actually have an in-person practice.
Okay.
So I do see patients very regularly here in person, and I still do consultations long distance, and I still do conference speaking and interviews. And like I said, again, we start all over. Actually, they demonetized my channel last month. Well, it was still this month, 2 weeks ago when I was overseas. I got a letter or an email saying, hey, you're going against all the guidelines and you're not even you, and this content isn't even yours, and like all these like false accusations. And they gave me the opportunity to appeal, which I was like, this is going to be BS. They're not going to really let me
Right.
appeal, because in the past, when I've appealed, it's just like, oh, let me give you an appeal. Just because they say that doesn't mean anything. But I
Right.
actually won the appeal, Sophia. I mean,
Wow.
just found out yesterday. So they gave it back. The bad thing is they wrote a letter and an email to all of my subscribers and members and told them that my channel was in question, and that, all these accusations. So all these people dropped because I guess fear, or I don't know,
Wow.
but it's like, how messed up is that? So it's
That's
like, we're not going to drop
crazy.
you, but we're going to get your people to drop you. It's like we're going to put it in their mind that you're bad. And so, yeah, I just put out a post letting people know, hey, I'm back, and you can resubscribe and you can become a member again. And because we do have like private meetings, and I have special content just for my members and things like that. But isn't that messed up that they would
That's
actually contact
bizarre.
everybody and be like, hey, you may not want to follow this lady because,
But she's speaking truth.
so
Like she's like she's scaring us because like she's bringing in content that we don't want people to know.
I'm surprised that they accepted my appeal. But their thing, I still don't get it. They were saying like, we don't know if you're really you, and it looks like you're just using other people's content and reposting it and all this stuff. And I was like, so I had to show my videos on my phone. I had to show my team of editors and how they edit. I say team, I have like 3 moms who help me upload and edit
That's so
and do my
awesome.
graphics. Most of them generously donate their time. Um, Literally, I pay them like $100 a month to do this each. 300
Yeah.
bucks. That's it. That's my budget. And I don't make anything. Like, I was only making like 250, 300 from the membership. So
Hmm.
I was going out of pocket like every month, and have for years, and I'm fine with that. But I just, it just sucks that they aren't getting, these are single moms who
Hmm.
are trying to, well, one of them isn't single, but they're trying to get some money for doing some helpful things too. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So if you're out there, subscribe. And if you want to be a member and help some moms and help support the channel, that's great too. But that's kind of where we're at. I'm seeing people, I'm using a lot of ozone here recently, and last month seeing, oh my God, that's my new favorite thing. Um,
Cool.
yeah, I don't know if have you tried ozone
I haven't
before?
tried it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Too many things. I mean, you could do a whole show just on what we're seeing with ozone. And some people are like, oh, isn't that bad, ozone? Because they talk about global warming and, how the ozone is blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, ozone used to be in American hotels, restaurants, bathrooms, hospitals. That was the way we disinfected. That was the way we helped people with a lot of things. And it's actually illegal in some states. But
Really?
if you go to Europe, you'll find them in the bathrooms, the hotels, the hospitals, because they don't use Febrezes and things like that to disinfect. But they're using it. It's interesting. You can use it for the dentists. A lot of dentists are using it, and for like, instead of doing root canals or what have you, people are getting IVs and injections for the C word. Um, we don't do injections at all, or IVs, but there's other ways we can do it. And you could do just ear scopes, for brain, neck, face. It helps to replenish collagen in your
Nice.
bodies. Yeah, and it doesn't do anything for you, but what it does is, it's instead of H2O, it's O3. So it's like
Ooh.
really powerful, an extra
Ah.
15% charge to your cells. And the biggest thing is people are like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 17 years old energy again. And just up at 5, ready to face the day, do the things, like go to sleep normal, sleep really well, so much energy. People are running faster. I know it sounds weird, but running faster. Like people who work out. This girl last week, she said, my trainer is freaking out because I can lift 20% more in just
Wow.
times doing the ozone. And she's like,
Wow.
what are you doing? And she's like, ozone. I had I actually I can't, I'm not gonna say where, but a very high up there person of service in our state. I'm not gonna I'm trying to be like, anyway, someone came last night and got ozone. That is a very high profile person, and he basically said, you now have a client for life. Um,
Wow.
and but moms are getting it, working with people with everything from STDs to dementia to fibro to Epstein-Barr, Lyme, like it just changes things.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool. So if any of you guys are out there and you want to do ozone here, great. And if you are too far away, go find ozone where you live and try it out.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how have you like come across all these different frequency technologies and like that's just so fast. I love it because I have a Healy device. I use LifeWave patches, I use Purium, and like so I use all those things and it just falls into my field. Is that something that's happened with you too?
Yeah, I love that. I think that God in me at that frequency. I mean, I have a lavender to lightning philosophy. I think everything should be lavender and everything should be electric because we are electric and we are natural. So
Mhm.
natural beings who are looking for natural things as well as electronic things to help frequency. We are 67 megahertz on a very healthy human adult day. And if we drop that megahertz, then that's how we open ourselves up to being in trouble. Um,
Yeah.
and you can either have high frequency, through music, through, I say music, sound, frequency, same thing.
Yeah.
People have a frequency, animals have a frequency, plants have a frequency, crystals, which I have a whole crystal card deck
I have one of those too.
full of frequency. Yeah. Every crystal has a different frequency, every aromatherapy. If you're using a real oil, there's only a couple companies that have real oils. Most oils out there are garbage. But there's frequency in the towers too. There's nefarious frequency. There's
Right.
frequency in bad music and bad art and bad people, and so, who we hang out with is
Mhm.
extremely important, as you know. And even if it's just on a teleprompter, even if it's who you're watching on TV or podcasts, like you can actually get entrained even from the television. So entertainment, that's the thing. And
Grams.
yeah, and the concerts, the way they're set up for acoustics, that's a targeted situation one way or another. There's good and there's bad, and well, I'll say good and bad. There is no good and bad. It's just frequency. It is what it is. And I look for ways to constantly better myself, and I think that that's what attracts different things. We have Rife, we have hyperbaric chamber, we have red light therapy, we have infrared sauna, we have foot detox, we use frequency wands. That's one of my favorites because it's easy to travel with.
Yeah.
uh, Ozone is my absolute favorite, but it's not so easy to travel with because you have a big oxygen tank. It's like
Yeah.
lug that thing around like a scuba diver. Um, but what else? Aromatherapy is very economical, and I think everybody should have aromatherapy in their house, especially if anything were to happen. It'd be good to have I have a kit that's like a prep kit
Mhm.
that I encourage people to get just so they can work on things. But 86% of all physical issues are emotional.
Yep.
So if we can work on emotions on a frequency level, then a lot of the things that don't defrag between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. from that limbic system that controls all it, it's kind of the library or the seat of the emotions and tells things what to stay and what to stick and what not to. Um, we can defrag all that. And when we defrag that, then that defrags from the field, because this body, all the organs, what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, what you're feeling, that's the biggie. And then all your organs have a radiation that go in the field, and whatever that code is what you get a match to. So if you have low vibration, guess what? You collect low vibration. If you have parasites, they have their own vibration, and that sends a code out to the biofield, and that's not a good one. And then you attract people who are parasites,
Yeah.
because they look at the person as a good host. That signal is, hey, come hang off of me and mooch for me, and basically you get that. So people, it's interesting when you work on a physical level,
Yeah.
get rid of parasites, all those like people, I started to say all kinds of words. Those people that you don't really require in your life suddenly dissipate, and
Mhm.
you're not having the situational drama like you had before, because you worked
Right.
on the inside out.
Right.
Everything is an inside job. That's my whole book talks about,
I love
it's
that.
an inside job. So
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Because when I actually have a friend whose daughter was deflecting at her recently, deflecting all of her inner pain at her mom. And she told me this, what was going on. And I said, wow, she hasn't sat with herself. Like she just hasn't been present with herself because she's like, judge, 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 you judge me, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, no, actually, your mom isn't judging. You're the one that's judging yourself. She's the mirror to you. And that's a hard concept because we don't want to realize that we're the ones that are have all these negative programs that are like just showing up in our field for us to heal. But when we have the courage, as you said before, to do that, it's amazing how things shift.
yep. And then same thing for the mom.
Yeah.
Why is the mom having the daughter?
Right.
It goes both ways.
Right. Exactly.
So there must be something in the mom that either believes it or whatever projected it to even use the daughter to speak it back to her. So we have these dynamics and
Mhm.
these people that we're with. And
Mhm.
have you watched the OA?
Not yet.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Everyone homework. Watch the OA. I've watched it 3 times forward and 1 time backwards. It is, yeah, that'll give you a lot of perspective about life for sure. It's on Netflix. Really
Cool.
good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating, like how we. Okay, I'm just waiting because I'm hearing my brain versus what my soul wants to tell me. So hold on a second. So over the past, I'll say 4 years, how have you seen people's frequency shift, like from the beginning of the
Thing.
thing to now?
Good question.
Thanks.
Um, I think initially there well, I don't know. I was gonna say initially I think some of it worked, some of the tactics, but
Mhm.
I don't, on some ways, yeah. Unfortunately, it caused a lot of people to not be with us anymore.
Mhm.
I lost 17 patients
Wow.
in the first month of all that.
Ooh.
Yep. Um, and still losing patients cancel clear. So, because it is a ticking time bomb.
Mhm.
And but as far as on a cultural aspect. Um, Families were divided, husbands and wives were divided, parents and children were
Mhm.
divided, states were divided, government was divided, the medical field was absolutely divided. We lost so many people, so many great, very well experienced people left,
Mhm.
which means we have a lot of really inexperienced, very young, fresh off the freaking boat medical people who are all programmed a certain way to
Right.
be in those positions now. You
Mhm.
do not want to be in a hospital right now, ever.
Mhm. No.
Trust me, I get all the people who have left the
Mhm.
hospital because they have had the worst experiences and or made it. I mean, thank God they made it,
Yeah.
um, but I think some of it, Sophia, a lot of it backfired.
Yeah.
I think they pushed so hard that I think some people were like, why? And it
Right.
made them question, like, what is this campaign about? It's so much, like, to get everybody they can on board. There's got to
Yeah.
be something here. And
Mhm.
then just pushing at the level of threats and money and bribing and, you know, threats of losing their jobs and, and now because I think the deaths, uh, a lot of people who really don't want to say I told you so aren't saying I told you so, but I think the people who were on one side are kind of shifting. Uh,
Mhm.
I've talked to a few people who come in the clinic or do consultations with me, and they were at one time on that side, and they're just like, yeah, I was gonna get the third one or the second one, but her grandma died, or three, her 30-year-old brother died, or whatever, and that's some their people. They're starting to put it together,
Cool.
And if you look at history, this has been going on for decades. These
Mhm.
things that they've
Right.
come up with to for population control and all the
Right.
stuff that they do, and it's worked to some level on many, many times. And so I choose to know what it will take to get a population actually in harmony, in love,
Mhm.
that sees through all the BS, that it vibrates at a level that they can actually uh, dissect truth from the lower vibration of manipulation and control, which is a 25, a 50 or below.
Mhm.
Um, because entities are really, really low.
Yeah.
Um, and we can vibe so much higher. And
Mhm.
but yeah, I think it backfired on some levels, and I think people are looking for alternatives. I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people. I have a lady right now who her daughter just had to have a surgery, and which I'm not anti-doctors. I
Right.
just if there's any other way to be preventative, not to have the surgery, or whatever. But
Yeah.
she was told, hey, you got to go to these 3 appointments after your surgery, and they're very, 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 very important. You cannot miss these. And after she was really treated poorly and just a whole circus at the hospital, so she went. Her first one, they canceled on her. The second one, they went up there and found out that it was canceled. So parking, taking off work, all that stuff. The third time they went to their appointment, they got there and realized that they said, "Oh, you requested a new doctor, so this isn't your appointment." And they were like, "We didn't request a new doctor." And they're like, "Oh, the paperwork says you did." And like just the circus of the whole like
That feels
mess.
like divine intervention.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe. And so they went to this new practitioner that supposedly they requested that they didn't. And the lady was like, "So, why are you here today?" And they're like, we were told to come to you." And they're like, "Oh," she said, "looks like you requested me." And she's like, "No, we didn't." And they were like, "Well, what happened?" And she said that she had a surgery or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, well, did you have the surgery here?" like no records, no backstory, like literally didn't know why this woman was coming to see her. And so it's frustrating, to hear these stories. I went through it with my own family, with my dad having some stuff and my mom having some stuff. Like there's just not a lot of communication. It's very, very poor. Anyone who's ever ordered from a restaurant lately, have you got your food right? Like
Mm,
take that to a whole level when it has to do with life or death situations. Like
yeah,
customer service in general across the board for anything in the world right now is not so great.
right. Do you
So
think there's a correlation of, because I'm getting this like, I'm sensing is a correlation between the thing and how it's affecting the internal dynamics of the body.
it's definitely affecting,
Yeah,
definitely. And um, probably people think it's all conspiracy or whatever, but there's data on that. There's
right.
actually science on it. Now they will censor you if you try to put it out there.
Mhm.
Um, and because I've seen it over and over again where people are censored. I've myself, I just had like 7 things taken down on Facebook in the last 14 days. It's like, what? I can't even post normal
Wow,
things anymore. I mean, I was talking
that's
about
fascinating.
sunshine and vitamin D. Like, I can't even say go outside and get sunshine. I can't say take some vitamin C or D. They're
Wow.
getting pretty weird about censorship.
Yeah,
Um,
that's strange.
but yeah.
Have you noticed, because I've seen this, like I'm a pretty solid, grounded person. I don't really care about politics, but like my views on the world, I love the outdoors, I love bees and trees. They've been like my biggest causes since I was a kid. Um, and yet I've been like shifted from like here to like conspiracy theorist. And I'm not doing anything other than using my research skills and tuning into my heart and like just following where I'm being guided. And all the things resonate. And yet it seems like it's conspiracy because I'm not following the narrative.
So you mean like the platforms are saying you're conspiracy or like people or where
People
people?
like I've seen like and I know it's frequency shifts, but like I'm just being me. Yeah, because it's like I don't feel like I'm doing anything particularly crazy, but I've just gone down rabbit holes that resonate. And so I'm more aware of what's going on energetically than even a year ago, let alone 5. And like I've come to the point where I'm like, okay, so I have a PhD in cultural history. It's based on things that I thought were true, but I don't know if they are anymore.
Hmm. Give me an
Because,
example.
well, like census statistics, that's a basic one, or like labor and industry statistics, or radio. I my dissertation was on radio in the 1930s and 40s, so I could understand how culture was created. Um,
Do you
that's
think that they're fudging on the stats?
I don't know. I don't know. Like it's because there's so many things in history that are not accurate. Like 'cause there's a whole history that we don't know about. And so like how because it's just so complex, like how many things they've manipulated, I don't know.
It's a good, I mean, who knows?
Right. It's like so I have based on things I thought were true. I don't know if they still are.
Though, you know what? Lately, I, I don't, I don't think anyone's right or wrong anymore. Um, Usually I hold everything so loosely. And when people say, well, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? I'll say, right now, what I'm seeing or what I'm experiencing is this. And that could change in literally 3 minutes. So take it, for what that is. Opinions, everyone has one, like a booty hole. And I just encourage people to look for themselves. That's my thing is I want to send people back to because look, I guess maybe I'm old school, but when I grew up, I don't know if your dad did this, but I'd say, Daddy, how do you spell blah, blah, blah? And he'd say, look it up.
Hmm.
And I would get so frustrated because I'm like, just tell me how to spell it. Um, in the middle of writing things or something, just look it up, look it up. I had encyclopedias. I would
Hmm.
read encyclopedias like for fun. I loved information. And it sounds like you're kind of like that. If you're doing
Yeah,
books on cultural history, I mean,
yeah.
that's
Oh, my
we're
dad had this world history book, and he'd say, okay, find this country. And it would be like a puzzle for me. And I'd find, and he'd like have me like research it and like write the story about it and what I found. And we had Will and
But you
Mary.
remember it more looking it
Yeah.
up, right? And
Oh,
when I
yeah.
had to look it up in the dictionary and go, oh, this is how you spell definitely, even though I spelled definitely wrong to this day. Definitely spelled like this. And, but usually not just, I mean, that's a different word. But most words that I looked up, I can
Right.
actually remember now because I looked it up.
Right.
Um, and I think that with anything medical, anything cultural, anything whatever, I can introduce things, you can introduce things. Most of the things I think that you and I both share are like, hey, what do you think about this?
Right.
Because I'm trying to find it out too. I'm like, we're all
Right.
just figuring it out. Like, I'll post something and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I
Mhm.
like to listen to both sides, to be honest, because I really want to know.
Right.
I want to hear both sides. I think that's what's wrong with the news is the news is very, you watch this channel, you're going to hear this, or watch that channel, you hear this. It's like, why can't we have a channel that actually has the facts
Right.
and let the opinions
Hmm.
form formulate on their own. When
Right.
I went overseas in all the hotels that we stayed at, all the Airbnbs that are they only had one channel. On the airplanes, they only one channel. When we've been in the hospitals recently, they don't even have certain channels on in these countries and these hospitals, even in the States. I just found out that a certain school, my children's school, that they watch a certain news channel for their philosophy class. And I'm
Really?
this is very one-sided, and that's
Yeah.
scary because and it's just as scary if it was the other channel.
Right. Right. Right.
Like I don't and you guys know who I'm talking about and what I mean on this. It's like for I think everything should be presented
Mhm.
and then everyone gets to make a decision based on things that happen. And or what if we had a news channel that just only focused on someone saved a dog out of a fire and
That
someone
would be
helped,
amazing.
yeah, someone
Yeah.
helped a lady mow the grass because she's a widow, or like what if there were channels like that? Because I'll tell you what, if you go on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you know what has the most views
The
is
nasty.
stuff that's like cute, fun cats
Oh,
playing in the pool
cool.
or, you
Very
know,
cool.
cute things that make people happy and bring serotonin, dopamine.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Because I was thinking it might have been like dark because
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is. It's high for really dark and it's high for really light. It's like,
mm,
but what if there was a news channel that
right.
only brought in like, hey, did you know that this school donated their garden to feed the homeless, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
only good news, like actual good news. What if the news was a good news channel?
That
And
would
I
be
don't
amazing.
mean like a Christian or religious either, which I'm
Right.
not anti-Christian. I probably most likely align with Christianity, but I'm just saying like no religion involved, so there's no
Right.
division. Let's just talk about fun things that happen in the United States that are really cool or the world. It doesn't have to be
Right.
the United States, you know? So let's find a news channel like that. The good
Yeah.
news channel.
Hmm. I love it because like that's what we need more of. Like when we shift our attention away from lower frequencies, it's amazing like how much better we feel. But when we're stuck in this lower vibration, and it annoys me because like I love Stevie Wonder and I know he's a lower frequency. Um, it's like, okay, well, what can bring me in the 432? Or how can I haven't figured this out yet because I don't know that much about sound editing, but like how can I make his sound 432?
Yeah.
Because early Stevie Wonder, I mean,
There's some great music out there
yeah,
that is in the right tune. So
yeah,
it's just a matter of remembering it and or creating your own. How about
right.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's been a learning curve. What's interesting too is if you just Google 2024 images, um, pretty normal. And same thing with 20, I think 2025 might have been a change, or 2026, where it was like all the pictures are like nuclear war and bombing things and death. And the closer you get to 2030, it's like showing you a little more of like, it's like, why are these images already out there for 3 years from now?
Yeah.
And then 2030, guess what? It shows everything AI in these cities that are just like Jetsons.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
it's like, so how much is this scripted?
Right.
How much is really real? Like how much, but if you read my book, I actually have Bob Jones, who was my mentor for years before he passed on Valentine's Day. I have was given this chart one dream, if I could find it now. And he would, like any election, people would always say, like, well, who's going to win? Because he was very prophetic and he would always get all this mass information. And I choose to know where this graph is. But he would say it's yet to be determined because
Yeah.
there is, I don't,
Mm.
can you even see that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so blurry though. Can you really? Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, there we go.
Is it backwards to you?
No,
Okay, it's backwards to me. But
it's perfect for
basically,
me.
we have the present, we have now, we have the present, we have the future, we have the ever so great future. And
Mhm.
we have where we are, and then we put out a wave, and that wave comes back in an echo wave to see, like, okay, are you really there or are you not there?
Mhm.
It's like to test us. If we have like we have negative things and where we're having mixed energy, then it's hard to create something
Mhm.
positive mixed with the negative. It's like 1 - 1 = 0, right? But if you have 1 + 1, you get 2. We want to be in the positive. We don't want to be in the negative. The more negative, so everything is code. But this
Mhm.
actually shows that everything is yet to be determined.
Right.
It's determined by us individually and us collectively.
Mhm.
So as we work on ourselves individually, that adds to the collective collection of code, which changes the earth to either a positive or a negative. And they're using imagery and entertainment and movies and all these things to use our own consciousness to fear those things and or look forward to those things,
Right.
to create the world that they want. They're actually using our own DNA technology against us to create the very thing that they want. Um,
Mhm.
and one of the dreams that I had one time was it was showing Hollywood on this side and Washington, D.C. on the other. And there was a giant ship, and the udder underneath all the water was one side Hollywood and one side DC. And it was like, this is steering the whole daggone boat. And
Wow.
we know that if you put in a GPS and you're off just a little bit of a calculation, you can end up in Hawaii instead of Antarctica. You can like take a wrong turn just energetically really, really quick. So if we could just keep that energy you were talking about, keep that focus on the positive, whether it's us or the world,
Yeah.
um, we can bypass all of these things that they're wanting to see for 2030 or
Right.
nuclear war or all this stuff. And we could be like, no, let's do entrainment on making our own food and having love and peace and having community and loving our neighbors and really really joyous things. And I know it sounds like so kumbaya, but it's actually for real. Everything is yet to be determined. And there were some things that were supposed to happen in 2012 that didn't happen the way they wanted. Y2K didn't happen the way they wanted. All
Right.
these things that they try to like make it doom and gloom, it's like, guess what? The people stood up and shifted that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we have that power. It's so interesting. I'm just being shown to share this. I was up at a place in Portland a couple weeks ago called New Renaissance. It's a metaphysical store,
Okay.
and I was going to be doing animal healing sessions there. And I walked around the room, and there's a whole bunch of ascended masters there, and I just like stopped and I looked at each picture because I know in quantum physics, when you have an image of something, that essence is still there. So I, for the first time, I've been there many times, but like I walk around and I touch base with all of them. I sat in that room for 3 hours and did not want to leave because
Oh,
the energy was so beautiful. And what I was shown was that because I connected with them with my frequency, I shifted a frequency in Portland.
wow. Yep.
And that's not
Butterfly.
coming from my ego, that's coming from my soul telling me that.
Yeah.
And we have that power.
Yes. It's the butterfly effect. I know
Mhm.
exactly what you're talking about when I realized that is I had out this is a whole nother show, but I had an encounter having to do with two of my children that I miscarried. And they were working with animals in heaven, wherever that is. And um I've always worked with animals, and but we started working with a local shelter here 6 years ago now. And the first litter that I got to help bottle feed, I was in my daughter's room bottle feeding these babies, and I
Mhm.
had this like drop memory of me being on my farm in Montana at my grandparents' house, taking care of these I'm gonna cry, taking care of these kittens. It was
Mhm.
just like so pure and so like I was in my element. I was just like, I was like 6, and here I was, fast forward, late 40s, doing the same thing, feeding these little innocent babies that deserve to be here and deserve love.
Yeah.
And I remembered about my children, wherever they are, doing something similar. And then all of a sudden, I had that realization that you were talking about. It was like, wow, I feel like I'm changing the world just doing this right now. Like, I know it sounds so weird, but
No, it isn't.
if everybody was doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing in the time that they were supposed to be doing it with the people that they were supposed to doing it and really, really listen to that intuition, like how much better would this world be on a mass scale instead of living with the guy you don't want to live with anymore and doing this shitty job that you hate and putting up with coworkers that are just abusive or it's like the encounter that I have was talking about living true. And the thing that I was told is you're not truly living unless you're living true.
Mhm.
And when I was told that by this 14-foot iridescent thing in my living room, it vibrated through my soul. Like I feel it even when I talk about it to this day. It happened in 2010. And that shifted my entire life to really look at myself and go, wow, what is living true? And it's not just saying the right thing that is true. It's, do you go to this grocery store today or do you go to that one?
Mhm.
Even though you go to this one all the time, if you're feeling that little hint to go to this one, like
Mhm.
maybe you're going to meet this person who needs this, or this person that's going to connect you to that person, or pick up a new product, or run into someone in the parking lot, or like being guided constantly by that GPS, that God positioning system that really is here for you.
Mhm.
And I just think if we could all tap in, like you teach people all the time, just to tap into that truth, that we would be in better shape and overall living true. That's true living. And that's
Mhm.
actually the name of my center, is Living True Wellness, is because when we're living true, that's true living. That vibration of authenticity is actually higher than love. And when we
Mm,
started doing studies on love 500, authenticity scored higher. And I was like, why would authenticity or truth be higher than love? And the reason why, I think, in my opinion, is it's because authenticity is unconditional love. It's level, it's a, it's really truly walking it out in
yeah,
action of just and it could be the most courageous thing you ever have to do, against all the stuff around you.
mm,
But when you do it, there's so much reward, so I just really encourage people, even if it's scary, even if it's like unknown territory, do it, listen.
you say that. I went up to Orcas Island last year. I had $200 in my checking account. My guides, the orcas, the actual orcas, the Quelimeshin,
Like,
people at the sea, called me up and I listened to it. And I said to my source, my God self, I was like, okay, if I'm doing this, you got to make it easy because this is terrifying to me because I don't have a place to live. I'm fine with traveling, but I like a landing base. So I get up there, I've gifted funds, and the second night I'm there, I meet a woman who's looking for a housemate.
what? Oh, see what the
And
universe is working towards for us.
I know. And it was like, and then the 2 months I was there, it was so expansive because I connected with the land, I connected with the porpoises, I connected with the Quelimeshin, I connected with the local tribe. It was like so trees were literally talking to me. I mean, it was amazing. And it was like, this is what happens on a, because I mean, I've always jumped off cliffs is what I say is like jump off a cliff of faith and like found that I have a soft landing, but this was like a big expansion for me because I didn't have a place to live. And I'm like, I like cozy. I like having a place to live. And so for that to show up in my field, it was just so magical, and I was guided to like sit and watch the sunset on Bellingham Bay for 2 hours a night, and it was just like this is the reward. Like if I follow the guidance, the rewards are beyond anything I can imagine.
Follow the guidance. Yes. That is, and sunsets are powerful, aren't they? I mean, that's my favorite time of the day is just, yes. And I'm sorry if I'm like checking my phone. I have a live right now that I'm supposed
Okay,
to.
all right. I
So,
love you, sister.
yes, yes. You guys can find me at drsharnael.com. I do have a YouTube channel that is sometimes censored, apparently. I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, all the things. Just go to Dr. Sharnael and or come visit me or get a biofeedback scan. And if you guys are watching this and you are ready for something new and different, and or if anything like this has been like helpful to you, reach out, because that's one thing I miss about like conferences is hugging people, seeing your face, like that energy. And so I love it when people pop in and go, hi, I'm me, I saw you, and I just wanted to introduce myself. And then I get to go, oh, I see your face, and I connect with you and send you good vibes. And I'm sending you, Sophia, good vibes and everything that you're doing. And I just love your work and appreciate you so much. And from my whole heart, send you big, big love and all you're doing and all your family. And
And I'm returning to you as well, and I thank you so much for you being you.
awesome. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye, love.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, love.
Yes. Thank you. Bye. Sorry, I gotta go.